here we are again, 100 years enterprise on this beautiful Sunday. You know, we just have to continue to thank God for who we are, for what we have, and the things, what he gives us. And what he continue to give us and bless us with. We are 100 years enterprise. Our theme and our mission is to steer you from making early death decisions. And as we go on, to introduce myself, my name is Fahim.
I'm Dante.
I'm Patrick.
Growing up in Richmond, California, or just growing up in the Bay Area, I went to El Cerrito High School. I met this brother. He had a very unique voice. They had a radio station called KECG. And every time he came on before the end of the school, we used to hear his voice. I think it was on Fridays. He always introduced himself as Disco Alamo, right?
Disco Alamo.
And so, my brother Rodney.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me, Brother Fahim, Brother Dante, Brother Patrick. It's truly an honor and a blessing to be here today on this beautiful Sunday, as you eloquently stated, in honor of being on 100 years, my first time appearing on the podcast. So I'm truly delightful to be here with you, gentlemen.
Yes. And we just like to have you because you give back. I like to call you a philanthropist. You give back to the community. You have a lot of things going on. When I was behind the wall, so watch the Soulful Softball, and that's a beautiful thing what you put together. Just being able to bring the communities together. And then for the sake of this topic, consequences of the street life. So we're gonna go into that in a minute.
I just want to say this, brother. Thank you for coming time. Get time out your day to come here. It's truly a blessing to have you on. This probably like the second, third time I met you, and from what I've heard and what I've seen, the work that you're doing is very needed, and we appreciate you. And hopefully, we can get more brothers, like you as well as ourselves, to push and out here and get at some of these youngsters because change. We need to change the way that we think. We need to change the minds of these youngsters out here so they can make better decisions instead of early death decisions because a lot of them, guess what, is headed to prison. And so as Brother Fahim said, the consequence of the street life, I just want to say this, right? The consequence of the street life might have didn't have a negative impact on your life. From what I'm seeing, it had a positive. So can you tell us about that?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And I appreciate you stating about Soulful Softball Sunday, which was a unique outfit that I put together along with some other folk. I was the founder of it and the ideologist behind it. And so I brought other folk together from different sectors of Richmond, and I wanted folk to partake in an activity that I grew up doing, which was playing baseball. Of course, now as an adult, we play softball, so our major league dreams somewhat are diminished, but we can still live that, bringing these individuals from our community together. I was told it was a very difficult idea to do at the beginning. I was warned not to do it, bringing different factions from our community, North, South, and Central together to play a simple game of softball. But deep down inside, it had a lot of tentacles that involved with reconciliation and atonement. As you all are familiar with the confused war that transpired from 2004 to 2014 within a sector of our city, it had unfortunately taken 435 lives. 93% of those individuals were African-American black men. And when you look at the dynamics of those numbers and you start to ask yourself, why did these things happen? There's a thing that I like to call, it's an acronym called HIV. And that stands for the hood infected virus. And if you don't come up with an antidote for the HIV, it turns into AIDS, addictive incarceration death syndrome. So the ideology behind it was to get folk to think about themselves differently from a different perspective while playing a simple game of baseball that we all played as youth at Nickel Park. Again, going back to what I know, what I've seen work, infancy stages of young people, showing them how to be productive in society, showing elder people how to be productive, and then bringing that 8-year-old child back out like we did when we were youth playing baseball. So the whole premise of it was to say, hey, let's just have a day of fun. Nobody had to worry about bills. Nobody had to worry about getting killed. Everybody can just come and be themselves. And so we were able to do it starting in 2015, and now it's 2023. We're in our 8th year of doing it. So all collectively total, we've done 15 ball games.
Yes, sir.
I want to chime in on that too, man, because the topic here is consequences of street life, right?
Yes, sir.
And when I first met you, I had just got out. I think I was out like 47 days. when I first met you, Fahim and Dante took me. What was the park y'all took me to?
We was no. We was at the Kellis Beach.
Kellis Beach, right?
Beach, yeah.
Yeah, but
And
Miller's
you
not.
sound exactly the same. Conversation the same. That's how I know you're authentic. I met you 2 or 3 times after that.
Yes, sir.
But I'm saying my first time meet you, your eloquence and everything about what you represent is authentic.
Thank you,
Because
sir.
the same topic you talk about today is the same topic you talk about when I first met you. And in comparison to what you're saying right now, right, it takes me back to my childhood when I grew up in North Oakland, Bushrod Park. All the things about baseball, sports, and all these things. And when the drugs came into our communities in the 80s, right, before that, we was about sports. Right? And that's what these parks and recreation and our big homies was teaching us, right? And so now what you were saying just reminded me of that, right? And then when the drugs came in, when you spoke about HIV and AIDS, how you broke that down, those are the things that affected us through the drug trade.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, us giving back, and I just want to commend you for what you do, the body work you do. And I'm here to say that from the first time I met you to this point right now, you've been the same dude, the same responsible. I know you're authentic. I know you for real about your style.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
So
sir.
I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you,
know,
sir.
what Patrick just said, to be authentic, to be true, it's always reality based
Yes, sir.
from the foundation, right? And so, with that being said, how did you stay true and to manifest your beliefs growing up in what they call, what we know as Globe Town, but the townhouses? How did you miss all? There's a lot going on because you was from that era. How you miss it?
Well, I had a strong mother. My mother was in the
Okay.
Black Panther Party, so Black Panther Party for self-defense. I was taught different things as a young child growing up. I knew about the Mulford Act. I knew about the McCarran Act. I knew about the Omnibus Street Crime Act of 1968. When I was 8, 9 years old, my mother was fundamentally teaching me different things.
Right.
My mother gave me an ultimatum. She said, you can go back there and sell dope with all those individuals if you choose to. But if you get caught, I will disown you. So I had that burden upon me to make choices, as we're talking about choices.
Right.
Now, all those were my friends. I still laughed and joked and drank Coke with them and didn't treat them any differently. But when they got down with the guy down, I got sideways.
Right.
Because I knew what that would lead to, right? So I wasn't better than nobody else. I just had a different tillage.
Yes.
I also had people in my life, like Mr. Owens. When I was 16 years old, my father died of a cocaine overdose right here in Berkeley at Herrick Hospital. Even coming back to Berkeley, sometimes there's a reverberation that goes through my soul and through my body, knowing that I made a decision as a young man to pull a plug on my father. We talked about cocaine coming into the advent of crack cocaine in 1983,
Right.
Coming into the confines of not just Richmond, but North Oakland and other enclaves throughout the United States of America. So when we understand our due diligence of service,
Yes.
we understand what it is that we must do as young men to carry on these rich traditions that our forefathers had left for us to do.
Yes.
We begin to understand life a little differently. I had a mentor by the name of Berth Owens. I cut hair in Richmond for 17 years, cut hair in Hawaii for 10. So I'm a 27-year veteran. I'm now retired of cutting hair. Mr. Owens said something to me that was profound. He said, you owe so much to so many who was never given nothing to you. That has stuck with me. I'm 56 years old for all my life. As an adult man, I said to myself, I have to come back and I have to give back to this community. I have to sow back. Folk would come into my chair. They would sit down. They would give me information. They will sow life into me. I'm talking about elder statesmen in our community. Brother Patrick and I talked about this earlier about how the elder statesmen are not coming back to get the young brothers, to put them underneath their wings, to teach them certain things. We talk about the lions and elephants in Africa, of how they do with the young. That is no longer illustrated within the sector of our communities anymore. So we're losing our youth. They're going wayward. They're going into all kind of different things, trying to figure themselves out in society. And so, you know, we get guys like us, and we hear it all the time.
Right.
Oh, come on, man, you're an old head. You don't know what you're talking about. You know, I get that all the time. But it's not that I don't know what I'm talking about. The experience is the best teacher of fools.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. So let me ask you this, Brother Alamo, is this. Have you ever been in prison?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Psychologically.
Psychologically, okay. So the tools that was embedded in you, right? How can we relate that to these youngsters out here? How can we incorporate into these youngsters' life? Because see, they missing something and they missing the mentors. You know, they missing the fathers.
Yeah.
You know, because the fathers ain't in the home no more. You know, and the ones that is, they ain't, they full of bull crap anyway, because they not teaching their kid the things that they supposed to teach them. Because in a way, we can't fault them, because sometimes they don't know. They just going by how they was raised. So what can you say to the youngsters out here, right? The same formula that you had, how can we relay that to them so they can understand it? Because see, we have to speak the language where they can understand. Because if we speaking way up here, they gonna miss it.
That's a great question, sir. And I'm glad you asked that question. Now, you talked about the tutelage. You talked about going back there. You talk about learning this language. What I had to learn was the language of pain. In order for me to relate to any human being, I have to understand your pain threshold first.
Yes.
You said, well, a lot of these folks don't know, so it transcends down to the children not knowing. We talk about mentoring, and what I mean by mentoring is teaching them, giving them the evolution of what growing up is.
Yes.
Right.
Society is not an easy task. All of us are still learning as we're growing.
Yes.
We still make mistakes, just not the same mistakes. So each one reach one. There was a situation just happened in Richmond. This was a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago. They had all these brothers who were really, really famous guys in the 70s, and I'm talking about athletic prowess. And they showed this documentary film of the D.D. Coopers, of the Spider Gaines, of the Willie McGee's, of the Mike Felders, all these prominent people that came from our community. And God touched me on the shoulder. He said, imagine if all these brothers on this film came back to our community and grabbed one or two young men, how great the village would be.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't like embarrassing people or putting people on the spot or nothing like that. I didn't say anything to anybody, but that came over me. What magnificent change will we see, brothers, if these individuals whom were in their heyday, these great human beings, did something of that magnitude.
Yes.
So to really, put your question in a nutshell, that's what has to transpire. And for those who have the resources and the information, we got to come back, man. They say, bring all the ties to the storehouse.
Yes.
And like what you brothers are doing inside Greenwood Academy, your wealth of experience, I'm saying 100 years, that's a century of knowledge between the three of y'all. Well, of course, y'all older than 100 years, but I mean, just imagine almost 250 years in this circle, right here? Almost 250 years in this circle, right? If not, maybe a little less, 200. That's a lot of information, man.
A lot of information.
So when we talk about 100 years and what you all are doing, and of course, nobody here is 100 years old. Collectively, all together, we're about 200 years of knowledge. So imagine if we brought all those brothers into one room, and then they begin to assimilate outside and grab 2 or 3 young people, and then begin to give them the tillage and information of what it is to be an upstanding citizen within a sector of society.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
That's powerful. I just want to say this too, right? Going off what Dante said about how do we convey a message that's not only universal, but reach the youth in comparisons to where they're at, meeting them where they're at. Because me and Fine, we go to juvenile hall, we talk to the youth, and we learn some amazing communicational skills through them.
Right.
So the key is, right, how can we meet them? And I'm posing the question to us, but I know you can. I know I'm asking you because I feel that you have the knowledge that we're looking for. But what I'm saying is that how can we reach them at a point to where it's, through our example, to where they can relate and then they can gain from us what they need to have to move on.
I've had a lot of experience working with young children in school settings. And one thing I would do when I would meet a young person is I would get down on one knee. That way I can meet them eye to eye.
Right.
You have children who look up to you. When the minute that they look up to you, you've lost them. You talked about a message, conveying a message, whether it be a message of love, a message of understanding, a message of respect.
Right.
And once we put all those together, we begin to understand what it is that people or young people are looking for. You all go inside juvenile hall, as you stated, and you learn so many communicative skills with these young people. A lot of times, us as elder statesmen, we think is you better listen to us and we can't listen to you. And once you do that,
you already lost.
It's cookies for you.
Right.
It's cookies. So there's no big me and little you. It can't be that way. I think, again, if you're trying to attract, if you're going fishing, you use a certain bait to catch fish.
Yes.
Right.
It's the same thing with young folk. I listen to a lot of rap music, although I may not agree with rap music, but in order for me to understand young people, I have to listen to the music to get an illustration of what it is that they're dealing with or talking about.
You know, it's a message. It's a message in the music.
Yes, sir.
So when we dealing with the youth, right? We all was youth. The only way someone who is relatable can talk to us, we had to trust them.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So how do you build a trust with someone who got a 9mm in his hand, carrying an ankle monitor, and on probation, and the gang is pulling him from two different sides? His mama stand on one side and daddy stand on one side. How do we grab them?
Continuity and consistency. When you dealing with any human being, we talked about Soulful Softball Sunday.
Yes.
Had I done it one time,
Right.
we right back where we started.
So staying consistent.
Consistency is the
Consistency,
key.
yes,
Anything that we do in life, you must have continuity. So that young man who's probably one situation from going on the other side, the more you continue to stay with him in his ear, guiding him, being that mentor, again, he began to take that 180-degree turn, but it takes time.
Right.
I always say, each seed that you plant won't produce a fruit the next day. It's going to germinate. It has to take time. It has to accelerate. It has to mature.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Maturation has its place.
And that's what we do. That's what we do. You know what I mean? We plant the seeds and constantly cultivate and water every day. And we notice that the more and more we communicate with them, either by phone call, text message, going to their parents' house, the trust is being created. The bonds are being solidified, right? And we notice that they constantly coming our way instead of to that negative way.
Yeah, and that's duly important when you're dealing with young people, because young people, they equate discipline with love. And when they see that you love them naturally, wholesome, you say an authentic nature, that's when you begin to bring them into your fold. If they see you like, it's almost kind of like a father that's sometimes in the household, or a father who comes every other week to go pick up his child. He doesn't necessarily have that bond with that child because he's not with him all the time like the mother is. So there's a strain on the relationship. As the father begins to see the child more and more, then that's when that bond begins stronger and stronger. Like what you all are doing, going by the house, at the school, you seeing them more often than not. And then, of course, you begin to be that father figure to some of the children. You begin to be that male mentor that they yearn for. I mean, all of us here, I don't know about y'all, but I didn't have a father growing up, right? And I always see my friends with fathers, even in the townhouses.
Yes.
And I would feel a certain type of way, like, man, I wish I had a father, you know, man, my father come pick me up or whatever the case may be. But that was a beautiful thing to see. Somebody said it earlier, like, man, my father taught me, brother Patrick said, my father taught me everything. Fatherhood means a lot.
It does.
And because at the same time, most people say that the mother is the first teacher, but the father is the one who puts the nail in the coffin.
Exactly.
He solidifies everything because he has a certain cadence in his voice. Like you talked earlier about, you know, this brother had this voice, and it's this commanding voice that I would have when I was rapping. Yeah, this is Real Alamo Brown, 102.9 KBLX. You know, that's right. So when a man says something, there's certain cadence that comes out that attracts the attention of the children. And that's what's missing.
And then you know what? Just on that, what else is missing is the communication. Because just last week, I had a father call me when I was at the doctor's office. Called me, and he had gave me a rundown of what was going on, you know, with his son. And so I said I'll be there about 5:00 after I left the doctor's office, right? So just to be real brief, I went, picked the son up, we talked. Dropped him back off. His father called me. And so we talked for a minute, and I told him, I say, sometime, you know, as a parent, you know, we have to talk to our kids in a civilized manner, not talk at them, you know, just have a general conversation. And sometimes we have to listen. Just because I'm the parent don't mean I shouldn't listen. No, listen to what your child is saying to you. And sometimes we don't do that. You know, and he laughed, you know, like, man, you know what, thank you. And he said, I'm going to start doing that.
Man,
maybe have to get a better relationship with my son.
And that's what I did when I took this young man. I took him to some pool with him, right? And I got a large gap from him. He's 17, right? I'm 52. But I understand him, so I called my son, right? And I told my son, look, man, come to the pool hall. You know what I mean? Because I didn't meet my wife and all that.
Yes.
So I'm like, look, if I'm gonna be mentoring you, I want you to know who I am.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So you can judge me for who you know me. I don't want to be kind of man come amongst you and then, I'm poof, I'm gone. You don't know nothing about me. This is who I am. So I let him meet my son. He took that to heart. And my son embraced it. Mm-hmm. My son 33, so my son have an age gap where he's more relatable than I am, even though I get him, but I sat back. We shot pool, I let them play, and I sat back and I listened. You know what I mean? They fill me in the sports and stuff like that, and I listened. I knew my place, how to get in as the statement, as the elder. Yeah. Right? I didn't violate their space. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right? Because they didn't do nothing wrong. It's positive. Sometimes we be over-parenting. Like, man, we shouldn't do that. Nah, he's at the age where he should, by me standing there, he may say something, he should be able to say, excuse me, man, I didn't mean to say that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm around you. Right. I'm around other young men. This is what we do.
Yes.
Right? Ain't nothing wrong with that. And so when he did that, man, it was just like, after I took him home and I drove him home, he just like, man, I really appreciate. Started telling me about his father.
Yes, sir.
He started telling me about some relationships he had with his father, and why they where it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? And so he like, I'm gonna follow up with that. And these are things, right, that touch me, right? The body work that we do in accordance to what you talking about.
Yes, sir.
Right? So like I said, man, the consequences of street life, man, is about healing. It's about figuring out how we can help people, our community, and heal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's key. I want to add to what both of you all just said is that when you said to look at them from eye to eye, get on your knee and just look at them straight in the eye, right? When a young man I had, when I first met him, first time he get in a car with me, I seen him coming to the car. He got a ski mask on. I said, okay. Right then and there, I knew exactly what to do. I said, why you got that on? Well, I don't know who I'm going to see. I said, well, you riding the car with me, you going to be all right? Because I don't have tinted windows. Yeah. I said, I don't have to duck from anybody. I ride anywhere. I know through Richmond, right? Yes, but this is what I do. I took him through my neighborhood. Yeah. So an older guy see him. He said, Unc, I ain't looking at you. He said, I'm looking at him on your passenger side. I said, why? I said, because he got his ski mask on. I look at him. He look at me. I said, now what you going to do? Took his mask off. Right? So when we catch them like that, they just need a little bit of opposition, of reality. Yes. So they can see what they face with. Right. Because now someone else of his peers in that same magnitude ain't gonna care. Exactly. And that's what they gotta get from what you doing, from us, and with everybody else, to show that we care, and this is why we do the things that we do. Yes. And with the opposite of what you do will be those consequences will let us behind that wall, or worse. You're going to be inside rolling hills in one of the cemeteries. Yeah. So we got to continue to grab these kids.
Yes, sir. It's of importance. I mean, it's duly of importance. And it's not just us. Right. It's going to take a whole contingency of other brothers like us who share the same ideology and methodology to be employed. I mean, we got other brothers within the sector of our community that's doing the essential work. Yes. However, it's going to definitely take more because it's more of them than it is of us. It is. You all said something very profound when we talk about that language again, that correlation of understanding. If I step on somebody's toe right now, they're going to say, ouch, because that pain, that language of pain. And once we begin to be professional in that regard of under pain, we best serve the community in a better capacity. And I truly believe that because we all going through vicarious traumas. Yes. When I mentioned the 434 brothers that lost their lives in Richmond, California, and we can date back to 80-something, 1980, 89, 1986, was it 91, when they had 61 homicides in the city of Richmond, an all-time high. Right. And that led to 759 deaths of individuals in the sector of our city. So when we talk about those vicarious traumas that coincide down to other people, you asked me, say, how did that affect you negatively or positively? Well, I've been to more than 100 funerals. I've been to more funerals than I have graduations and weddings. Yes. And I'm not happy to say that, but it's the truth. Yes. And so when we dealing with the dichotomy of that, just the psychological aspect of how that is, it makes one wonder, like, how did we get here? And then Martin Luther King said, where do we go from here? Where do we go? And that's the pivotal question. Yes. Where do we go from here? So we become those agents of change. Right. We become those magnets of love where we trying to latch on to folk and have other folk latch on to what we doing and see the bigger picture in it. We talked about 10% people, 10% African American living in the city of Richmond right now.
Right.
Where do we go? Where are we at? And we becoming the endangered species, so to speak.
yes.
Right?
You know, you go where we go, but also what we gonna do?
Yes, sir.
What we gonna do? Cause we gonna sit here behind the microphones and these chairs and walk these streets. What we gonna do? You just had a situation at the high school.
Yes.
You know, in brief, you know, you had to step in almost as a parent for what happened over there. You know.
Yeah, man. Geez, it's interesting you bring that up. And I think about this thing called emotional intelligence. I employ emotional intelligence and situational awareness. And some of our brothers and sisters, and I'm talking about elder statesmen, don't necessarily have that. They're not taught that. Everything is based off an emotional response, right? And so when you look at what transpired at the middle school with the young lady, with the mother and all that kind of stuff, could have been prevented, yeah. Was it not prevented? No. Because certain situations could have happened from that, yes. But because everybody's so engulfed after the pandemic that took place, and everybody got all these emotions, and everybody is on, upward to 100.
Too many emotions.
There's a lot of stuff going on. We look at the kids at El Cerrito High School. Racism is on the campus of El Cerrito. You mentioned KCG earlier. The radio said 88.1. Who would have thunk it that at this present day and age that those kids would be experiencing racism? It feel like 1963, James Maryland at the University of Mississippi trying to be a student in segregated Mississippi, in Oxford, Mississippi, and they throwing rocks at him.
Yes.
We got children, and we talk about Ruby Bridges in 1961 in New Orleans, couldn't go to school, had to be chaperoned by the feds to go to school. This is what it's turned into. And we say, how do we get here? Where do we go from here?
Where do we go?
What are we gonna do to correct this? So we fighting the power, brother. I'm all over the place, man.
Yeah,
We
all
gotta
good.
we gotta stay pushing though. We
Set
gotta
it
stay
up,
pushing.
man. All I can say is, man, subscribe to one of the years. Make sure you tap in, man, because we're gonna have a whole multitude of topics like this, man. Thank you so much for coming, man. Appreciate you so much.
Let the audience know we coming out on Patreon. We already on Spotify. We on Anchor. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube. But we also got to get our Facebook channel together. We still working on it.
Most definitely. And once again, donate to us so we can continue to do what we do. If you want to see some of this good and hear some of this good content, subscribe, like, and share, and donate if you can. Because we're trying to push. Because without you guys, we can't really do it all the way like we want to.
Right. And the best donation is to spread the word.
Most definitely.
Spread the word. That's the best donation besides any dollar sign. Spread the word because it's message and it's music. It's message behind our voices. And thank you again, Brother Alamo.
Yes, sir. We appreciate
for coming
you.
and for sharing, and doing the things what you're doing in the community. So what can the people find you at?
Man, you can find me on Facebook. I'm Rodney Alamo Brown. I don't have all the other social media accounts like everybody else. I'm, an old school guy. So I'm just a Facebooker. I use a Facebook tool to get the masses of people to come together.
Okay. You doing something on Wednesdays?
Yes, sir. So we're doing a financial literacy class. I teamed up with DreamWorks Academy in Richmond. We're at CoBiz, 1503 McDonald Avenue.
Yes.
And we're teaching youngsters 6 through 18 the basic principles of money and financial literacy. The program is going very well. We got 60 children signed up, which was amazing to get that many kids to want to even take part. So we pay them $25 per session.
Okay.
That's great.
So that's
great
a wonderful thing.
We got a thing was called IUM, importance of understanding your money. So we created about a year ago, something like that.
About a year ago.
That we go inside, and teach the kids, the basic financial literacy because it's important. To understand your money. If you don't understand your money, somebody's gonna take it from you or count it for you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. So that's what we're doing now. I'm getting ready to do another financial literacy camp, a prosperity camp for barbers, beauticians, and folks that's involved in the industry, whether it's doing nails or beauty industry or anything in that magnitude. Same place, 1503 McDonald Avenue in CoBiz. March 20th. It's free to attend. We'll be talking about topics as far as investment in stocks. We'll talk about 401ks, IRAs, SEP IRAs, showing folks how to rebuild their credit, showing folks how to buy homes. I mean, the whole plethora of anything that has to do with building the person. Hey, we're doing it, brother.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Sounds good to me. I'll just leave y'all with this here, man. You don't have to be famous to be a star.
Say
You don't
that.
have to be famous to be a star, man. Everyone's a star, man. So value yourself, love yourself, man. And again, man, be safe out there.
That's right.
And thank you
And
once again, Brother Alamo.
Follow, like, subscribe. 100 Years DOP on our Instagram. 100 Years Enterprise on our YouTube. 100 Years.biz on our website. See these beautiful hats the brothers got. So we got the hats, the hoodies, the t-shirts. Put your order in. We do pre-orders. So it's all good. And let's continue to say the community.
Yes,
And
sir.
let's grab these kids from making these early death decisions, right? What can lead them to the early grave or to a life of incarceration. They do not want to be on the other side of that wall. My name is Fahim.
Dante.
I'm Patrick.
And we are 100 Years Enterprise. Thank you, Alamo.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
Absolutely.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.